what are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz
It's us.
us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome back to another episode of Closing the Gap, the truth about black wealth. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton, owner and founder of Hamilton Wealth Advisors. Here with Mr. Morris Smith, we've been having an amazing time. He's been giving a lot of great information, dropping a lot of gems, and I know something that a lot of us are eager to hear about. I'm actually eager to learn more about myself because I'm very much not a real estate guy from the standpoint of just not knowing enough about it. I'm definitely a fan of what real estate can provide from a tax saving standpoint, appreciation standpoint, and also from an asset standpoint, because it is one of the most significant and major asset classes, in the United States of America, honestly speaking. So, I'm eager and wanting to learn more myself. And I'm glad I got this brother here to share some of his knowledge and wisdom, but, and kind of how he got in the game and started, accumulating his real estate portfolio.
But when I saw the guy who was doing the houses and stuff in Tuscaloosa, that motivated me to go out and start investing on my own. And what I did was I came up with a strategy and a plan. And I decided to rent out my property that I had purchased early on. So I purchased my first house when I was 23 years old, and I decided to rent it out some years later. I was able to rent that house out and start cash flowing off of that property. Once I started cash flowing well off of that property, I was cash flowing at least about 15 grand a year positive off of just that one property.
Oh, wow.
And that's what made me go out and say, hey, I need to go grab a few more of these.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. But I went back home, went back to our hometown and started buying properties up out of there. And I was buying a lot of those with cash. And I was able to, cash flow well off of those and continue to just add to my real estate portfolio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you're starting to get more into the real estate, of course, the more you get into one thing, the less you probably are involved in another. So, how was it delegating, not just from a real estate standpoint, but from a barbershop standpoint?
Yeah, so now I only work like 3 days a week in the barbershop. So I use a lot of my other time into real estate, like the first part of the week, and also creating content and, things of that nature. So that's how I've been able to delegate, and also, hiring like an admin to handle a lot of my, day-to-day operations.
Well, I'm actually, like I say, delegating, the biggest thing he said, I heard now that he had a plan. You fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, having a plan of action, being consistent, being diligent about it, so these are things that can not just benefit you, in the real estate or as an entrepreneur owning a barbershop, but just in your everyday life. I think we all could use more organization, more planning. I'm always, big on that when people come to me to talk about investing. I said, well, we got to create a plan first.
Right.
Before I can tell you what to invest in, we need to have a plan on what we're going to utilize this money for. So if we don't have a destination we're trying to get to, how do we know exactly how we should invest this money to start off with? So that's one thing I'm real big on is having a plan, and obviously that's something that you had to create, and that's allowed you to grow and be able to sustain yourself and continue to maximize and be productive. Just having, being good with your time. Having that plan of just knowing what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it, allows you to be able to get involved in other areas and gave you the time. Most people think, okay, well, how could you still make the same amount of money cut in half, when you're only doing 3 days a week? Well, if I schedule properly, and my clients know that these are the 3 days that I'm going to be in the shop, well, guess what? They're going to be there on those 3 days. And I can still cut the same number of heads in that time that you cutting in 5.
And that's something that I realized too. I realized that, I'm making the same amount of money that I was making in those 5 days, that I'm making in those 3 days. And I'm maximizing my time with the real estate and at the barbershop. So everything just started flourishing, after that,
Well, no, I completely agree. I remember when earlier in my career, when I was transitioning out, when I first started, I used to meet all my clients at their home. I used to always be on the road, ripping and running. I was going to see them. And I said, man, it got to be a better way, because, I had a guy tell me, I said, well, I'm doing my end of the year plan and my end of the year goals. He said, what are your goals? I said, well, I want to, double my production in the next year. He said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, I got to see more people. that's the only way I know. You got to see more people. And he said, well, you got to do one or two things. Either you can ask God for more hours in the day, or you got to change the incomes of the people you're seeing. And I thought about that because I was already stretching myself thin, and God wasn't gonna give me no more hours than He was giving you. So I said, okay, well, I'm not gonna get that time. So, what can I do? Well, all of a sudden I said, well, let me start just revamping my overall business plan. And I started changing from the time that I was spending on the road traveling to people. I said, well, if I cut that time out and now I have those people coming to see me, well, I can probably see 3 to 4 more people per day because I'm spending 2.5, 3 hours a day in the car.
Right.
So if I just plan better and now those people are coming to my office, I can now have more meetings throughout the course of a day, and now I can be more productive. But it took me some planning. It took me restructuring, reorganizing in order to get myself in a position where I could do that. And a lot of people that were in my industry said, man, that ain't gonna work. They're like, man, people not gonna come see you. Come to see you. I always like, man, people want you to come to them. And I said, well, one thing I know about people is, they put value on what they see as value.
Absolutely.
And once I start placing more value on myself the same way you did, you said, look, I'm only available 3 days a week. I ain't available 5.
Right.
Those people that wanted you to cut their hair, they made sure they was there on their 3 days.
That's it.
And those clients that wanted me to work with them, and the people that you wanted to be your clients, they came and met you on your time when you were available. And that allowed me to grow and expand in a way that I probably never thought possible. So with you saying that, it was just a flashback for myself and understanding that, whatever value you have for yourself, make sure you show the world that, and the world will show it to you back. Be back in a minute. Welcome to Hamilton Wealth Advisors, where our goal is to change the financial landscape of the African American community by providing the best of the best in financial professionals to help close the gap on financial wellness, wealth creation, and wealth transference. We're continuing to expand and grow our reach and add qualified advisors to our team. Help us to teach our community how to create generational wealth. We're looking for passionate, selfless, and professional advisors that pride themselves in the core beliefs that education plus expertise leads to proper execution. So if you think this opportunity may be for you, ask yourself this question: what is your why? And if the answer is you want to be a professional, successful advisor that makes a positive impact in the lives of all you come into contact with, contact us about joining our team today. As we look to move forward, continue to be a blessing to those who would never come into contact with by creating a successful financial plan today. Welcome back to Closing the Gap, the truth about black wealth. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton. Here again, of course, my man, Mr. Morris Smith. Man, we've been having a wonderful time today. A lot of enlightening information, learning about how we continue to grow and get better, and hopefully share some information with you that you can utilize in your day-to-day lives to help, push you forward and, jump off the porch, so to speak, and chase your dreams and aspirations. So, more, we've been talking a lot about just real estate and how you kind of got in, and, you started cash flowing some properties. You got better organized, you hire some assistants, you start putting some admin in place and increase your productivity at the barbershop, you increase your productivity, from a real estate standpoint. So, once you got, comfortable, with how you're running the barbershop and, what you were doing, from a real estate standpoint, what other areas of real estate did you get into after you started, just from becoming a realtor, what other areas of real estate kind of attracted you, from that standpoint?
Well, of course I was investing in single family homes, but I also partnered up with some other real estate investors as well, multi-family units. So, currently, collectively I own over 30 units, because we have a 22 unit, that I'm a part and investor on as well. And I have our own units as well. So, collectively I've been, venturing out, I'm always learning though. I'm always open to learn. I'm always open to invest. And so, this is why I teach it, man. I'm trying to show people how to really bridge the wealth gap,
like you gotta walk it like you're talking. So like I said, this man ain't just out here telling you what to do. He's actually done it himself. And, I think that's key. I mean, I'm always big on, like I said, professionalism and talking to professionals. And professionals, not just someone who has a license or a degree, but it's someone who has obviously those credentials, but also has experience. Someone who's done it. This man is not just a licensed realtor, but he's an active real estate investor himself, owns multifamily units, has, rental properties himself, has done, fix and flips and, everything else under the sun. So he can actually tell you, how to go about, whatever it is you're trying to do from a real estate standpoint from A to Z. And I think it's important to seek out those professionals that actually have done it, and you can see a track record versus someone who's just trying to tell you about it. You know, a lot of people like to tell you how to do something, but can't show you what they've done. I believe a tree bears fruit. You know, a good tree bears fruit, and if you can look at that tree and you don't see no fruit, then I'm a person that says, you know what, I don't want nothing off that tree. Yeah. You know, that's not a person I'm going to follow. So, I'm just thankful and glad that you are here. You know, you're extending yourself, and I think the biggest key that what I heard from what you just said is that you're always open to learn.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times people can be too closed-minded. They can get to a point where they think they know it all, and nobody knows everything. I don't know everything there is to know about financial advising. You know, I don't know every investment under the sun, but I have to be willing to learn. You know, you have to be willing to put those resources around you. Like you said, you have those partners that you work with that can bring you into other areas that you may not be as familiar with, but it's allowing you opportunity to grow. So,
not only that, they also, I'm learning how to, raise capital and if you want to be rich out here, I tell you, want to be rich, millionaire, wealthy, you got to raise capital, man. You got to raise capital, and you got to go to these neighborhoods and buy them up, and that's what they doing. So if you want to get to that point, that's what you got to do. And so I'm learning all these things of how to really organize and orchestrate those things. So I'm always learning. Every real estate deal is a different deal that I'm always learning on.
Well, absolutely. Ain't no job like on-the-job training. Experience is always the greatest teacher. So, you got to, like I said, you got to jump off the porch and go after it. If you never jump off that porch and go find out for yourself, you'll never know. Because I always tell people, for me, I think it's best to almost find out what you don't like before you find out what you do. Yeah. Once you find out what you don't like, you find out what not to do. Yeah. It's a lot easier to navigate away from it and start getting better results. So, I think those are things that people fail to learn because, like you say, they always say, you show me one successful person that's never failed. Every successful person that's failed at something, they've made some mistakes, but they didn't stop there. Yeah. They didn't quit. I mean, you jumped off the porch, but like you said, you did every head you cut wasn't the best head. You got better over time. Every real estate deal actually wasn't the best deal, but you had a chance to learn from those mistakes and learn what not to do. But the fact that you were persistent and you stayed after it, that's what allowed you that consistency and that sustainability that has brought other people to you. So, here on the show, we always talk about, your gift making room for you. Yeah. And I believe when people, you find your area and find your gift, it's a lot easier to create multiple streams of income. I think where people fail at, and we have a lot of in our community now, is people being jacks of all trades and master of none. They don't have one consistent flow of income, right? One steady stream, and they're out trying to do a bunch of other different things, and what's creating chaos. God is not an architect of confusion. So we understand, why we can't have success doing multiple things is because you haven't mastered one thing. You've mastered one thing first, and you have the barbershop as a foundation. So even if you never did another real estate property, you can go to the barbershop, correct, and have a sound, stable future for yourself for the rest of your life. Absolutely. Because at this point in time, you went from one shop to ventured over into Atlanta, and shop there as well. So you actually growing, and that gift made room for you. The fact that your barbershop was right by the real estate office. Yeah. It's I'm a firm believer, like I said, your gift making room for you. So he was operating in his gift and in his talent that he'd been operating in from the time you were, like I say, a young teenager cutting back in the gum, all the way through. And that gift puts you in a position to have access to someone that sees something and say, you know what, I don't know what it is about you, but I want you to get involved in real estate. Right. And here you are today teaching thousands of people about real estate. Yeah. So I'm always saying, your gift make room, and this man is a living witness, living example as to how it continues to make room for you.
And I must say that the journey was fearful. It was very fearful. I was scared, even when I opened up my first shop, I was scared, just walking up and down that sidewalk, trying to make a decision on if I'm gonna make this a barbershop, I didn't have a lot of money, so I was, that little $5,000 I had.
Hey, it went to work.
It went to work.
Well, like I say, the fact that you went for it, I always tell people, we have to start to understand the difference between being fearful and uncomfortable and having that gut feeling of something not being right. I think that's something that we have to start to distinguish between the two, because all of us have a natural intuition as to when something doesn't feel right. We growing up back in the day, it was okay, what time do you leave the party? When stuff starts to feel a little bit like, okay, what, something about to pop off, we need to get up out of here. That feeling says leave. But there's also a feeling where, there's something new and we feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I think we have to stop allowing that feeling to prevent us from taking the next steps into our future. Back in.